Let's learn about passing arrays to functions. Arrays are always passed by reference to functions. This means that any changes that we make to the array within the function will affect the original array. Passing one-dimensional array as an argument to a function. When we pass an array, or particularly a one-dimensional array, to a function, it is passed using call by reference method because the array name itself is an address for that array. It points to the first element of that array. We need to specify both the name as well as the size of the array inside the function parameter list to let the function know how many elements are there in the array. Let's understand how to pass one-dimensional array to functions using this program. Here in this program I am going to display elements of a one-dimensional array using a function and then calculate and print the sum of these elements using another function. So this program is going to be divided into three parts. In the first part I am going to create an array and input some elements into it. In the second part I am going to create a function which will be used to display all the elements of the array, and finally in the third part we will calculate the sum of the elements and then print them. So let's begin with int main function. Inside the main function I am going to declare my array which is of integer type as arr, and the size of this array is, let's suppose, 5. Then I will put a comma operator here and declare another variable which is also of integer type. Let's call this variable as I, and this variable will keep track of index values or the positions of various elements within the array. In the next statement I have a print statement or cout statement where I will prompt the user to enter elements of the array and terminate this statement with a semicolon again. Next we will type our for loop to keep track of the index values within the array, and for that we have already declared variable I. So index value I will be going from 0 to 4, 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. These are the 5 positions for which we have to get the input from the users, and in order to get the input inside the loop body we will type cin, then arr, which is the name of the array, followed by a pair of square brackets, and within the square brackets I, and then terminate this statement with a semicolon. So with this we end the input part, and now let's move on to the output part. So to display all the array elements I am going to define one function outside the main function. So this is a function to display array elements, and here the return type of this function is going to be void because it is doing nothing else except for printing the array elements, and let's call this function as output. This function will accept two arguments. One is the integer type array A. Here note that I am not writing arr but A because this is the formal parameter. So A, and along with it I have used one pair of square brackets and these are empty. This is just to differentiate it from normal variables also, because if I simply write A it will become a normal integer value, but by putting a pair of square brackets I am defining that this is an array, not a simple or normal variable. Now I am also going to mention the size of the array. So size of the array is an integer value, let's call it as n, and then we will define the function body. So here my first statement inside this function body is the cout statement where I am mentioning elements of the array are, and then /n again, and then I will use one for loop, and inside this for loop I am going to define a variable I which is of integer type, and this I is for keeping track of index values within the array. So index value always begins from 0, and here the length of the array is n, means total number of elements is n. So if I am beginning from 0 then I will be going up to n minus 1, or it will be less than n, not up to n, and then I plus plus. Now inside this loop I will type cout, and then I have to type the name of the array which is a in this case. Again I have to pass the formal parameter, and along with it I will type square bracket, and within the square bracket the index value which is stored in variable I. Then I will put /t, or you can also put /n. This is just to create a space between the array elements. After this, put a semicolon over here. With this, the definition of this output function is over, and we have successfully displayed array elements here. If you want to check the output, you can do so by typing here inside the main function, outside this inner loop. You can simply type output and then pass on the name of your actual array, which is ARR. Just pass this name, no need to mention the brackets, and the size of the array is 5, and then put a semicolon. Here you will type return 0, and let's run this program. It's already saved as array sum.cpp. So let's see what is the output. Enter elements of the array. Suppose I enter 10, 20, 30, then 40 and 50. So here you can see 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50 are displaying. Now coming back to the main program, we have two parts here. One is to display elements of a one-dimensional array using a function. So we have successfully displayed the array elements, and now it's time to calculate and print the sum of these elements using another function. So here outside the main function, once again I am going to create a function to calculate the sum of array elements, and let's define the return type as int, because the sum of integer values is going to be an integer. And let's say sum array is the name of this function. Once again it will accept two parameters. One is the formal parameter, which is the name of the array, and another parameter will be the size. So once again I mentioned the array name and the size of the array as n, and then inside the function body I am going to declare another variable. Let's call it as sum, and the initial value of this sum is equal to 0. Now what this value will do, what this variable will do, it will be storing the final sum after adding up all the elements together, and then we will display the final value of this sum variable. So that is why I have initialized it to 0. Once again here I am going to type /n calculating the sum of array elements, and then /n again, semicolon. Then for loop is to be written again, int I equal to 0. This for loop is exactly same which I have mentioned over here. So I is going to be less than n, I plus plus, and here inside the curly braces I am going to type sum equal to sum plus, and then name of the array. In this case I am going to type the formal parameter name, and then square brackets, and inside the square brackets value of I. What I am doing, I am adding every element to the previous value of sum. So initially sum will be 0. So 0 plus, let's suppose my first value is 10. So 0 plus 10 will be 10, and that will be stored into sum. Next time when I have the second element, which is 20, so sum value will be 10 and this second value will be 20. So 10 plus 20 will be 30, and again it will be stored into sum. Then again sum value will be 30 this time, and the third element will be 30. So 30 plus 30 equal to 60, and that will become the new value of sum, and this will keep on repeating until we reach the last element of the array. Once this is done, then we can return here sum, which is the same variable which I just declared here. So I am going to return this sum, which is an integer value, and hence the return type of the function was int. Now I am going to declare one variable s equal to 0. This variable s is going to store the value which is returned by this function, which will be an integer value, and hence the data type of this variable s is also int. So here before the return statement I am going to type s is equal to, and then I will call this function sum array. So the name of the function is sum array, and inside this function I am going to pass the name of my actual array, which is arr. Again, no need to mention the size of the array, and then the number of elements of this array, which is 5, and then semicolon, and finally in the last line I will display here /n sum of array elements is equal to, and here I will type s and then semicolon again. Let's run this program and see if it is giving the correct output or not. So enter the elements of the array 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. As you can see, all the elements were displaying earlier also. Now calculating the sum of array elements, and the total sum is displayed as 150.